All right. I'm back on editing this here. 4. We're notifying. Okay. Wait a minute. Oh, so I have to be facing the camera. Okay, I get it. Okay, transcendental evidence. What must be true. 5. 6. Let me figure that out. We can talk. Yep. 4. 4. 4. 4. Okay. 2. Darth joined as guest. Almost done, and here we go. Proof by contradiction. Yep. Didn't have that in the last one. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1. 2. Oops. 2. 3. Online. So it's repetitious a little bit. Yeah. What do you mean by evidence? Now again, what do you mean by evidence? Definitions matter. Definitions. Definitions. What do you mean by evidence? All right, guys. So whenever someone, I'm just informing my fellow Christians here for when I possibly get to post this on YouTube. Whenever someone asks you, what is your evidence for God? I want you to always remember to ask them, what do you mean by evidence? Because a lot of times we as Christians grant that there is one type of evidence. We join in the delusion. There's not one type of evidence, guys. There is empirical evidence, there is rational, logical evidence, there's historical evidence, there is experiential evidence, there is transcendental evidence, there is self-attesting revelatory evidence. So when an atheist says, what is the evidence for God? If you ask them, what do you mean by evidence? And they say empirical evidence, that which is demonstrated empirically or demonstrated scientifically, then you just say to the atheist, sir or ma'am, there is no empirical evidence for God, because God is not a physical entity that can be examined or demonstrated scientifically. There is no evidence for God. There is no empirical evidence for God. So instead of wasting your time even having a dialogue with the atheist, just concede it. There is no empirical evidence for God. There it is. And then the atheist can say, okay, there's nothing else to talk about. Because if that is their criteria for accepting the existence of God, then they will never believe in God, because God is not a physical entity. So is his physical or not? I don't know what you mean. Bible says God walked through garden. He sits on thrones. Well, the Bible says that because God is able to become physical. But in his ontological existence, he is not a physical entity. He will at times become physical when he sees fit, but he's not a physical entity. So to ask the question, what is the empirical evidence for God? Where is it? I mean, I, as a Christian, never claimed that God is, in his ontological existence, a physical entity. And therefore, the question is a category error. It's like me asking a man, give me the evidence that you're a woman. Man and a woman are different categories. So if you are an atheist and your reason for not being a believer is because you have never seen empirical evidence for God, meaning God isn't a physical entity, therefore he doesn't exist, then keep being an atheist. Keep being an atheist until your last day on earth, and then you'll meet God. I mean, I have no problem with that. I have no problem with that. If you guys want to say I'm an atheist because I haven't seen physical proof for God, fine. I will also point out that your criteria is actually contradicted by you, because there is no empirical evidence for the assumptions of science, but you still accept them. You still believe them to be true. You still believe them to be real. So if you apply the same logic to yourself that you apply to me, if you apply the same criteria to yourself that you apply to me, then your position is a contradiction. But I know that, even though I point out that your position is a contradiction, you still won't abandon it because you have a double standard, and it's fine. Not true. False analogy. Not the same thing. I mean, you guys can say it's not the same thing, but that's how I see it. Are you? Give me the evidence that you're a man when you're a woman. It's a category error. It's a category error. And maybe I have to define what a category error is for you guys to know. If you ask me for physical evidence, empirical evidence for a transcendental spiritual being, you are literally committing a category error. God is, by definition, in his ontological existence, not physical. That's what the Bible teaches. He has the power to become physical when he sees fit, but in his ontological existence, he is not physical. The Bible says that God is spirit, and they that worship him must do so in spirit and in truth. So it is pointless. If you're an atheist, and the reason why you are is because you have not seen empirical evidence for the ontological being, God. If that's the reason why you're an atheist, then it's a waste of time to even have a conversation with me, because you will never believe. You're never going to believe. Let me see here. I'm not talking about the physics. I'm not talking about the claims in scripture. I'm talking about God's existence. Atheism.
Hello.
Anyways, NFA, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Are you an atheist?
Why am I an atheist?
No. Are you?
Yeah, I'm an atheist. Yeah.
Okay. Are you an atheist who lacks belief in God because you haven't seen any empirical evidence for him?
No, I don't hold to empirics.
Okay. So why are you an atheist?
I think that it's basically fallacious to say that an eternal God can have causal power.
All right. Can you give me a syllogism for that?
Yeah, so firstly, you would have to assume that time is physical for this argument. Would you hold to that?
No, I don't think the time is physical because physical would mean that it can be it falls in the category of solid, liquid, or gas, and time doesn't do that.
What? You think that just because something doesn't have chemical properties would make it physical?
Yeah, that's what I think. Am I wrong?
Quite literally, do you think light exists?
Yeah, I do.
Does light have physical properties? Is it a solid, liquid, or gas?
Light is produced by a physical thing.
Does light, in its nature, is it a solid, liquid, or gas?
Light is an abstraction. It is the light is the absence of darkness, etc. But it still points back to a physical
Light
cause.
is the absence of darkness. You think that the absence of darkness is light in
Yeah.
all cases?
I mean, what can I call you? NFA. What does NFA mean? What's the N? What's your name?
You could just call me NFA, but
NFA.
uh,
NFA. You're trying to prove that there is something that is physical that doesn't fall in the category of solid, liquid, gas. But you're giving an example of light that is produced by a physical thing. So I don't see where you're going with this.
yeah. So light is a form of radiation,
That's produced by a
which
physical thing, right?
yeah, but is
So,
radiation
so
a
what's your
solid, liquid,
argument?
or gas?
What's your argument then? I mean, you're
Yeah,
not
radiation
what
is
I'm saying.
energy. If radiation allows photons to exist, which produces light, then it's not then it exists.
Are
It's
photons
a
are photons
physical
are
thing.
photons physical?
What?
Are photons physical?
Yeah.
So, bro, are you trying to refute my statement that physical things are only solid, liquid, gas, or are
Yeah,
you
I'm trying to refute it
trying to refute it? But you
because a
have
photon isn't well, first of all, energy isn't like a solid, liquid, or gas. It can be, it doesn't have to be.
okay. So
There's
what?
a difference between fundamental properties and abstract properties.
Here's the problem.
Um,
What is energy?
Energy is well, what kind of energy?
Any kind. What is energy?
I think energy is the potential for actualization.
The potential for actualization. When energy is actualized, is it physical?
Uh, yeah, but
Really?
potential energy exists. It's just stored.
There we go. When energy is expressed, it's physical, isn't it?
Yeah, and when it's not expressed, it's still physical because it's stored. It's just not in use.
So are you refuting the statement I made that
Yeah,
physical
because
always
number
falls
one, I
solid liquid
think
gas or
I
not?
think you would have to prove to me that which you hold that it's not a solid, liquid, or gas, wouldn't exist. It exists in like particle and wave forms, but it's not a solid, liquid, or gas. These particles and waves exist. We could observe them in our universe. They're physical.
Okay, so I stand corrected. Solid, liquid, gas are not the only forms of the physical. So there are other ways that we could define the physical, but it's still the physical, right?
Yeah.
All right, so I stand corrected. I'll do some more study into that. Thank you for teaching me something new. Um, so what's your goal? Are you
Yeah.
saying
So I think that
that God because God is not physically, therefore it doesn't exist? What's the argument?
no, my argument is that an eternal being can't doesn't have causal power. But we could see within theology that this God has had causal power, which would make him illogical.
All right. So lay out the syllogism for me. Is it a modus ponens or tollens?
So modus ponens. Sorry.
Ponens. All right. All right. Let me just write this down. Okay.
Okay, so if God, premise one, if God exists, he is eternal. God is not eternal, thus God does not exist.
Wait. Did you say God's plural or God singular?
God.
If God exists, then
He is eternal. God is not eternal, thus he does not exist.
premise two, God does not exist. sorry. God is eternal. Sorry, God is eternal.
No, I don't hold to that. That's why I made the negation.
Wait, I'm sorry. I'm misunderstanding you then. So if God exists, then He is eternal, right?
Yeah, and then the next premise, since it's a modus tollens, God is not eternal, and then the claim is thus God does not exist. But then again, we still haven't addressed the point. Do you think that time is a physical part of our universe?
Wait, before I go, I want to make sure I have this right. If God exists, then He is eternal. God is not eternal, therefore God does not exist, right?
Yes.
All right, all right. Premise two. What is your proof for that?
Yeah. Do you think God has like the ability to change?
All right. So in theology, we have three different categories of immutability. We have ontological immutability, relational immutability, and we have ethical immutability. It is agreed upon in theology that God has relational mutability, in that He can change with reference to His interaction with human beings, but He has ontological and ethical immutability, in that He cannot change in those respects. So
Okay.
when we read Revelation, when we read Scripture, we see the distinctions between these things, and we hold that God does not and cannot change in one sense, and can and does change in a different sense, which is not a contradiction. But go ahead.
Yeah. So are all relations like in time?
All relations take place in time, yes.
So thus God cannot be in time because he's atemporal.
He's both temporal and atemporal in different ways, in different senses. I think what
Is immutable in all of his natures.
no. I just pointed out. Look, this is what's happening now.
Yeah,
So
you could hold to relational immutability. You could hold to temporal immutability, but you just said that relations are temporal. But God is atemporal since he's immutable, thus he cannot be temporal.
hence what I said about his relational mutability. He's able to interact with human beings, and hence the changes that take place
But
in
you
God.
just said that relationships are temporal.
Relationships are temporal, so God interacts with us temporally. I was going to point out that it is within Christian theology where we teach that God is both atemporal and temporal. And the
Well,
reason why
then that's just a contradiction there because you
I was
just
just
stated a
about to
P
tell
and
you,
not P.
I was just about to tell
The
you. The reason why it is not a contradiction is because it is in reference to different categories and different aspects of God.
Even if it's referential to two different categories, you still hold that relationship, so it'd still be in time. So you would just be arguing that in all senses, God is temporal. So either God's temporal or
No,
God's
that's
atemporal.
a
Which one
straw
do you
man.
hold to?
That's a straw man, man. So what's going to happen now is I'm going to have you give me a definition for the Christian God. Go ahead.
Uh, so there's multiple interpretations of the Christian God. There's like Jehovah's Witness believe that God's Unitarian. There's a Trinitarian point of view.
Give me the Trinitarian definition for the Christian God, that is supported by the Westminster Confession of Faith, since you have done your research and study before you went and made an argument for God's existence and non-existence.
Okay, so there's an eternal mind that created the universe, who takes the form of three different essences or nature, which is the Son, Father, and the Holy Spirit. Um, the Son is not the Father. The Son is not the Holy Spirit. The Son is not the Father. The Son is the Holy Spirit. Um, so
That was
Uh,
incorrect. You just said that there's a mind that exists in three different essences and three different natures: the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. The Father is not the Son, the Spirit is not the Father, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That was a false definition. So you haven't done your study. That was not cool. So you're making an argument about God's non-existence, and you don't even know who God is. That's amazing.
what was wrong about it?
Before, what's wrong about it is you don't know the theology that comes with the definition of God's temporality and atemporality and God's immutability. All of these things are being
You
learned.
just asked me for the definition for a Christian God. I gave you the definition for a Christian God. I said he was eternal. Eternal would have been implied he's atemporal.
That God exists in three different natures. No one ever says that. You look it up right now. There's no systematic theology that supports that definition.
That
Three.
God is eternal?
Wow. Bro, I recommend you do some more studying on theology before you come up and try to refute a God you don't even know.
Oh,
That would be an argument.
all right. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess so.
Yeah. Like for real. Like, so just do some more reading and then come back.
Okay.
Do some more reading and then come back. And I'm not trying to be evasive or dismissive. It is just that whenever I'm not going to say when, well, based on my experience, I'm not going to say this is going to happen every single time. When an atheist gives me an argument for God against God's existence, it is always a misrepresentation of the God of the Bible, because usually, I'm not going to say all the time, usually they take snippets of who the Christian God is and then run with that. Or they come to the conversation without doing study into theology and understand what they're rejecting, understand what the Bible says about God by reading the entire Bible or reading enough of it, or read systematic theology to understand how these things come together, to then, okay, say, this God does not exist. What God? And they actually know what they're negating. I told him to define the Christian God for me, and then he started with the Trinity. And he said that it is the belief that there's a mind that exists in three different essences and three different natures. No. The doctrine of the Trinity is that there is one being who exists eternally in three distinct persons. There is one nature, the divine nature, that is shared equally by each of the divine persons without replication and without division of the divine essence. Not three natures. As soon as he said three natures, I knew he didn't know what he was talking about. But that's why, guys, you have to know theology, because if you don't know theology, anyone can come up on your page and redefine the Christian God. And then you say, okay, that's a Christian God. And then they knock that, they knock it down. They argue against it and show that that particular God doesn't exist. But you, the Christian, don't even know that they're not talking about the Christian God. They're talking about a misrepresentation or a redefinition of the Christian God. So as soon as you see that, guys, you got to point it out. All right, Jason J. Robin. All right, Jason. You there, Jason? Maybe it's my internet. Divine nature is a property that can be granted to non-God beings.
Yes.
Okay. Hey, Jason, how you doing? Are you an atheist?
Nah, borderline.
Not borderline. Does that mean that you don't say that God does not exist?
Well, what I say is God exists in all of us. That's why I think God exists. And
Oh,
in all
oh,
things.
so you're a pantheist.
But right now I just listening.
Okay, bro. Okay. That sounds like pantheism, where you say God is in everybody and everything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pantheistic. All right, you can sure listen, bro. You can listen, no problem. We bring up Moto L. Moto L. Wait, let me bring this guy up. Moto L. Moto L, are you an atheist? Sorry,
Uh,
Motolo.
uh,
Motolo. That's a mouthful. I'm gonna call you Moto L.
yeah, Moto L is fine.
Are you an atheist?
Yes, I am actually. Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna be as fair as I can to your position. Uh, are you a positive atheist in that you uphold to the proposition God does not exist, or are you a negative atheist in that you simply lack belief in God because you haven't seen enough evidence?
The second one.
Second one. All right, all right, all right. All right. So, can you tell me what you consider evidential? Meaning, if I don't see this particular evidence for a thing, then the thing is not real or not true. Would I be correct in saying that you accept something to be true or false if you have physical, empirical evidence for it?
Yeah, definitely. I think the standard of evidence it would be the same that I give to a lot of other things that I believe exist. Right? I can see them, I can hear them, I can detect them, and if to make sure that it's not a hallucination, for example, other people can see them. There's pictures of it, there's videos of it, and such stuff there. Yeah.
All right. So here's my concession, Motolo. I cannot prove to you God exists.
Well, then the question becomes that if we experience the same reality and you believe that God exists, then I have to ask you, why? What am I missing? That you can, that you know that I don't know, that I can't see, that you can see, if you're a believer.
All right. So very, very good question. So the reason why I am not, a non-believer in the sense that you are, is because I accept other forms of evidence as valid. Other forms of evidence would include, so the one that you hold would be empirical evidence. So unless something is empirically verified, demonstrated, or demonstrable, it's not real or it doesn't exist. You take an extreme version of that called scientism, which is an epistemological philosophical perspective that says unless something is empirically verified or demonstrated, it cannot be known to be true. And all other forms of knowledge are either less reliable or meaningless. I don't take that position. I actually believe that there are other forms of evidence that can be considered like rational, logical evidence, historical evidence, experimental, phenomenological evidence, transcendental evidence, self-attesting revelatory evidence. So I take what is called transcendental evidence for God's existence and I prove it through deductive proof. So I do a deductive argument and I use transcendental evidence for God's existence and I accept other forms of evidence. Therefore, I can believe that God exists. And if someone asks me for evidence, I could give them the transcendental evidence and the deductive proof. But these are things that you would not accept because you are an advocate of scientism. So that's why I gave you the concession. I cannot prove to you God exists because I cannot give you empirical evidence because God is not a physical entity. If he was a physical entity, I could say, hey, here's God. He can be tested, examined, demonstrated. Okay, there he is over there. Believe him. But I don't have that. So you're not going to believe today.
Okay. I hear you right there. And do you think that the other types of evidence that you just stated have the same just the same weight as empirical evidence? If they're enough for you to believe, how come they're not enough for me to believe? Why do you think that I don't accept them? I feel like the things that I uh, admit, I can agree that they exist based on empirical evidence. I feel like empirical evidence convinces me that things exist. But then why does God fall into a category of a different type of evidence that would not even convince me? Because that means that the different types of evidences don't have the same weight, and then empirical evidence carries a greater weight of evidence the rest of the other evidence that you just stated.
All right, let me see if I can agree with you to an extent. I agree with you to an extent in that empirical claims must carry empirical evidence. And I would demand empirical evidence if somebody gave me an empirical claim. If somebody says that John Doe passed away yesterday, and I say, I don't believe it, I have to see the unalived body to believe. I'm demanding empirical evidence for an empirical claim. If somebody says that now you sound Caribbean, so I'm going to assume you're Caribbean. If somebody says to me that Bob Marley existed, he's a real person, or somebody said to me that Marcus Garvey existed and he's a real person, I wouldn't demand empirical evidence for that. I would demand historical testimonial evidence for that. So what I would do is I would follow a simple principle of not violating the category error fallacy in logic. We stick to categories and we stick to the claims that are addressed. Christians claim that there is an ontological, transcendental being who upholds, dictates, actualizes what is and cannot be in the universe. You wouldn't ask a Christian to give you empirical evidence for that claim because it's not an empirical claim, it's a transcendental claim. So you would have to look at different kinds of evidence. Now, just to jump on what you said earlier, the reason why you don't accept the evidence I'm giving is because you have a particular view about evidence. You have a particular standard on evidence. And I'm not going to tell you to change the standard. I'm just going to point something out that you probably haven't seen before. When you actually turn the criteria for acceptance of a real proposition or true proposition on yourself, you actually face the same problem, because there is something called the problem of induction, where the philosophical assumptions of science are not and cannot be proved empirically or demonstrated scientifically. And therefore, if somebody says something is true or real because it is demonstrated empirically, because those things cannot and are not demonstrated empirically, you would have to abandon science. But you're not going to do that.
Okay, and I hear you right there. And I sort of agree with you there, but I just don't agree with the when people say that science cannot be proven to be quote unquote to be true. Or the thing about science, I don't think I don't know what your definition of science is, but I think I'm using the definition of science when in a way that I say that science works instead of saying science is true or not. The scientific method works. It produces results instead of being a truth statement that can be proven true or false. There. So when you say that, that uh, your conception of science cannot be proven. What definition of science are you using here? Are you talking about the scientific method?
I'm talking about scientific method. The scientific method is observation, hypothesis, testing, study, verification, falsification, and then universal theory. Just to put it in a nutshell. So it starts with observation, and then you have a hypothesis. Then you try to falsify or verify the hypothesis. If it's verified, then it becomes a universal consensus theory, et cetera, et cetera. What I'm saying is that when you look at the assumptions of science, that the universe is uniform, the principle of induction, that that the future will resemble the past, the principle of causality, the principle of sufficient reason. These are things that are assumptions of the scientific method, in that you cannot do science unless you first assume that these things are true. And just to point out the very most important example, induction. The future will resemble the past. There's no way to know that unless you know the future. But we assume that the future will resemble the past, and therefore we can make predictions about the future. We can make predictions. But unless we assume that the future will be like the past, we will not do science, because if the opposite was true, the future is not like the past, there's no way to do science, because as soon as you come up with a hypothesis and then verify it today, it could change tomorrow. There would be no way to do it. So just one last thing. So to say that um, scientism is the most reliable form of knowledge, if you cannot prove the assumptions of science with the scientific method, then you violate the criterion of belief that you demand of me, and therefore your position would fall on its face if you were consistent.
All right, just one last question before, if there's anyone who's maybe on the queue to come in. I just want to ask you, out of interest, that just to give me one of your the type of evidence that you use to come to the conclusion that your conclusion of or to believe. I just use one of those evidences to get to that conclusion. I just want to hear it.
All right, sure. I'll give it to you. Hold on. All right, so I use a modus ponens, which is a deductive proof based on transcendental evidence, and it is this. Premise one, if intelligibility obtains, then a necessary, personal, transcendental ground must exist. It follows the principle of sufficient reason, that everything that exists has a reason for its existence, a cause for its existence. Premise two, intelligibility does obtain. Premise three, the only such ground is the triune God of Scripture. I give an identifier to the Q of my argument. In conclusion, therefore, the triune God exists. So this is a valid argument. The question then becomes, is it a sound argument? Are all the premises true? If premise one is false, then the principle of sufficient reason and logic is not absolutely true. And there can be things that exist with no cause and no reason. If premise two is false, then we can't even ask the question if it's false, because we're using intelligibility to even ask the question, is intelligibility false? So intelligibility is undeniable, therefore premise two is true. And premise three, I give an identifier to what the Q is of the argument, and it is God, because he's personal, transcendent. We can look at reality, we can look at the world and see intelligence, rationality, logic, language, consciousness, because it flows from a foundation that is characteristically these things. If we say that it's not that foundation, but it's something else, like the Big Bang, then we are believing or accepting a proposition that goes like this. I accept that rationality came from a thing that is characteristically non-rational. I believe that consciousness came from a thing that is characteristically non-conscious. And it would be an extraordinary belief, if you ask me. So that's my argument. It's a deductive proof from transcendental evidence, which is not empirical evidence, so you will not accept it. That's what I said earlier. I can't prove to you God exists if that's your standard. But I have to point out that your position is a self-defeating position, because you can't use that criteria to prove the philosophical assumptions of science that you actually have to assume to use science or do science, the methodology.
Okay, and I think it's the last question. Does your argument lead you to? Are you a Christian?
Yeah, I am.
Does your argument lead you to a God, and then do you need further arguments in order to get to, or does your reasoning lead you specifically to Christianity, or does it leads you only to an existence of a God, and then you need more argumentation to get to Christian God?
Actually, no, man. And that's a very good question. It shows that you're thinking. That's why in the argument in premise three, I say that the only such ground is the triune God of the Bible, the Trinity, the triune God. So the Trinity uniquely fits the condition for this ontological ground. And here's why. I use what is called a reductio ad absurdum for premise three. It is what is called proof by contradiction, in that when I do transcendental reasoning and worldview analysis, when I look at every other worldview, pantheism, polytheism, positive atheism, not negative atheism, positive atheism, which presents a worldview, deism, Eastern religions. When I look at all of them and the gods that they worship throughout history, none of them uniquely, simultaneously, comprehensively and exhaustively possess the attribute set that is required to ground all aspects of intelligibility, which would be laws of logic, uniformity of nature, reliability of sense and reason and perception, reliability of language and communication, awareness, consciousness, personality, relationships, value, worth, etc., etc. None of them uniquely has the attribute set that the triune God of the Bible has. And don't take my word for it. If you ever have some time, you can just compare. It would take some time for you to do that. It took me literally 6 months to do it. You can compare every single God that has ever been proposed throughout history and compare them to the attribute set of Yahweh of the Bible, and you will find that Yahweh has an attribute set that uniquely distinguishes him from every other supposed deity, and that's proof by elimination, proof by contradiction.
Okay, all of that was very enlightening, and thank you for that, for the conversation, and take care.
No problem, man. Thank you for coming up. Yeah, so what you guys will get with me is I match energy. If you guys come up here aggressive, angry, then I'm going to be aggressive and angry just the same. If you come up here calm and respectful, I'm going to be respectful and calm just the same. And I'm going to be as fair as I can be. I literally conceded to this man. If your demand for God's existence is he has to be proven empirically, then I concede. I concede. I concede. In that sense, God doesn't exist. God doesn't exist. If that's your standard, I can see why you're an atheist. It doesn't exist. But the Christians don't claim that God is a physical entity. If we claim that God is a physical entity, then you have a reason, you have a right to ask us to provide you with empirical evidence for God. You have a right. And if we can't provide that for you, then you have a right to be an atheist. I'm going to be as honest as I can be. God is not a physical entity, and therefore there is no empirical evidence for him as an entity, as a natured entity. I cannot prove to you God exists from that standard. So I give my concession. I cannot prove God exists if I'm going to go with your perspective on what evidence is or what you view to be evidential. Can't do it. So it makes no sense we waste time arguing when I conceded I can't prove God to you if that's your standard. And then we just, end the conversation. But I am going to point out, as I did with Motolo, that your position is a self-defeating position in that if you say that a claim is true or false, a claim's truth is dependent on its empirical demonstration, then because the philosophical assumptions of science cannot be demonstrated empirically, you have to also reject those. But you're not going to, because science works, right? Anyways, let me see what Patrick has to say. Patrick, are you an atheist?
No, I'm a realist.
You're a realist. Oh, okay. You're a realist. Okay. Do you know what the definition is for realist in the philosophical literature? Do you know what the definition is for realist in philosophical literature, or are you just making up a word here?
No, I don't deal with philosophical. I don't deal with philosophical. I do not do that. So if you're gonna talk to me that way, I can have conversation. You understand? I'm not. I don't play philosophical reasoning.
Patrick, don't go. I'm going to answer a call, okay? Stay right there. Stay right there. I'm going to be as fair to you as I can, all right? 1 sec. Hold on. All right, all right. I got back now. All right. So Patrick, you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
All right. So I think I heard before the call came in. I think I heard you say that you don't do any form of philosophical reasoning.
No, I don't do those things. No, no.
All right.
I don't hear the play. Who's smarter than who and rare and who trying to sound smarter than who.
I'm not gonna
I
do
don't
that.
do those things.
I don't think that's fair to anybody. So I'm not gonna
Yeah.
try to act as though I'm smarter than you. You're probably smarter than me. I'm not gonna claim that. What I'm gonna point out is this, and don't take my word for it. You can look it up yourself. All right. There is something called the problem of induction in science, and it is that science, the scientific method, is based on philosophical reasoning. I'm not making this up. You can look it
Yeah,
up.
I don't deal with philosophical reasoning in science. I do not do that. Do not make assumption. I do not run those kind of reasoning. If that's what you're on, I'm not here to debate you or talk or reason with you like that. I'm not on that.
Patrick, I'm pointing out a fact, man. It's a fact of reality.
Yeah, but I said if you're gonna go it that way, I don't reason that way.
So are you
I
saying
do not.
are you saying that you
If you
are
can reason me on a layman terms and your assumption philosophical terms, I'm not gonna reason with you like that.
so are you
Zane?
saying that you're not going to engage with that?
Yeah, because that's what I'm saying. I'm engaging with you, but if you're trying to reason with me on a philosophical term, I'm not going to reason with you like that. You know, it's a bunch of assumption. I don't deal with assumption.
Right. There's even a guy in the chat that says the foundation of science is based on philosophy, man.
Yeah, but the foundation of science don't based on philosophy.
All right, all right, all right, all right.
Some part of science
Let me
based
try
on
to give it.
philosophy.
Let me try to give a concession then, just to be respectful in the conversation.
That's
right?
one of your guys say that. Not the foundation of science is based on philosophy.
All right, all right. Let me ask you a question. Is your rejection of God because there is no empirical evidence for him?
Yeah, there's no, you can't prove it. There's no empirical evidence for God. Yeah.
So I can't prove empirically that God exists, therefore you don't believe in God, right?
Yeah.
All right. I concede. I can't prove God to you empirically.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't prove God to me empirically.
No, I can't. And that has never been claimed by any Christian throughout history. We can't prove God to you empirically because it's not a physical being. So you win the debate if that's the debate standard. You win. Can't prove it.
Okay.
So I told you I was
No
going to be
problem.
as honest as I could be, Patrick. Am I being honest here and respectful,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I cannot prove to you that God exists empirically because it is impossible. God is a spiritual being, not a physical being, so we can't prove that. No Christian can. So if you ask a Christian to do that, you will always get, I can't do it. Or they will try to do it, and then you're going to poke holes in what they said. It's not going to happen. So if that's the standard of the debate, then I lose. I give my concession. I can't prove.
Yeah. And I come to ask you, you mean atheist is false? What kind of argument is that? I don't understand your argument.
So I'm making reference to the reality that when an individual says that God does not exist, and they give the reason for that claim, that the criteria for something to exist is if it is proven empirically. I point out that the reason why that position is false is because the assumptions of science are not proved by, and therefore the position falls on its face, and that's why it's false. And also, there is no claim for the ontological grounding for existence as to why does anything exist and what actualizes existence itself. The atheist has no grounding for that, and therefore it's false. So that's what I meant.
Scientists make all assumption. Science is based on only assumption.
Hold on. No. The foundation of science is based on assumption. Let me give you an example, just to make this as simple as I can.
You see, this is the next thing do. The
There's something
foundation of science based on assumption, my youth.
Let me tell you what I mean. There is something called the principle of induction. It is the assumption that the future will resemble the past. The reason why it's an assumption, Patrick, is because we don't know the future. We do not know the future. So we have to assume that the future will act a certain way. So That is the first principle of the scientific method. Since the universe is regular, since the universe is consistent, since the universe is uniform, we can expect that the future will resemble the past. And therefore, when we make an observation and we have an hypothesis, we can falsify or verify the hypothesis. And then if it's verified, then we can make a claim about the future. It's based on the future will resemble the past. Now, can you prove with science that the future will resemble the past? No, you have to assume that. That's all I'm pointing out. Do you agree with what I just said, Patrick?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with someone. Yeah,
All right.
agree.
That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Since science cannot prove induction, which is what science is based on. If someone says to me, Adrian, since you cannot prove scientifically God's existence, I don't prove. Then if they're consistent, they have to also reject science because it's based on something science can't prove.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying, Patrick. But if you say you don't believe in God because there's evidence for him, empirical evidence, then I concede again, man. I'm not going to try to prove God exists. There's no evidence.
Yeah, but I'm saying, you basing your argument based on believing on God because scientists can't prove certain things.
No, that's not why I base my belief. I base my belief in God based on what is called transcendental evidence and deductive proof. So I give an argument for God's existence based on transcendental evidence. So it is a form of evidence, but it's evidence that you will reject because the only evidence you accept, Patrick, is empirical evidence. It would be a waste of time for me to even give you.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But why would you base on your a God based on your transcendental evidence? Why would you do that though? Are you playing games with yourself?
No. Your question is based on why am I not an extreme empiricist like you? I don't accept something to be true just because it's empirically verified. If somebody asks you, Patrick, right? If somebody asked you, no, I'm not going to use you as an example. I don't want to make this too personal. If somebody asks me, Adrian, do you love your daughter? And I say, yes, I do. That is a claim I'm making that has no empirical verification, none whatsoever. Is somebody going to tell me, hey, you're wrong because there is no empirical evidence for your statement, you love your daughter? No, who the hell would say that? That's because there are other forms of evidence, Patrick, that make or verify a claim's truthfulness, not only science.
There's a question I can ask you to prove that you love your daughter. I can ask you. You understand me? Would you give your life? Would you give your life for your daughter?
The answer is yes, but that answer can't be verified empirically. See?
Yes, answer is yes, but I can't verify it.
Yeah, I can say yes, but you can't verify it empirically, which means that what I said is false according to the standard you're using.
No, I wouldn't say it's false. I just have to take your word for it.
Right. You would have to assume that I'm telling the truth, right? Because you can't prove it empirically.
Yeah, I can't prove it. Yeah.
Exactly. So you would have to accept other forms of evidence.
Yeah, but I'm saying, okay, yes, okay, yeah, it's subjective. As I said, I can't prove it. But those are not reason to say a God exists. I'm gonna tell you something. If you analyze God based on the universe and the logic about a God, how could a God based on the concept of how they say a God create? You understand me? Or who created the God?
I mean, the Bible teaches us that God is eternal and therefore the first cause, the first mover. So there is no creator.
That's not an answer. You understand me?
All right,
Tell me say something eternal is not an answer, man.
Let me try to answer
Yes,
it. Let me try to answer it better. Okay. I don't think that you hold to the position of an infinite regress in causes. I don't think you do. I don't think that you actually believe that everything infinitely has a cause. There has to be a first cause that is uncaused, right?
If it's first cause, it's not infinite.
So you would say that causation is not infinite. There has to be a starting point, right?
If it's a starting point, it's not infinite.
So Wait, if it's a starting point, then nothing caused it, right?
Nothing causes it. It's just it's always exists.
Okay, that's what I call God, man.
Yeah, but I'm saying, why would he? Okay, Mario, may you know, based on how we study the universe, and we barely know as much as we study the universe. You understand? And we see the universe naturally as things and the universe, everything. If we understand the law of the universe, and we know things come together based on certain force. You understand?
Uh-huh.
And it don't need a God to do that. It just come together based on certain force. You understand? So
So,
why we try to think said we need a God to bring certain certain chemistry, certain elements of life together. We don't need a God for that. The universe, dear,
why?
have its force itself to do that.
All right, let me tell you why I think we need God for that. Let me tell you why, and you can agree or
Why?
disagree. Okay, let
Why?
me tell you why I think we do. There is a principle that I think you're going to agree with. I'm going to tell you what it is. It's called the Rocks principle, rational ontological correspondence system. What that means is a foundation will always correspond to what flows out of it. We agree with this wholeheartedly. We see examples of it all throughout our life. You're a human being. If you procreate, you will produce a human being. You're the foundation, and what comes out of that foundation is going to correspond to what came out of it. And that's why this should be a little bit ironic. If you
Yeah,
have
but it still don't explain your God though,
wait,
because
I'm getting there.
you're actually talking about the universe. Yeah,
I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
yeah.
So I'm just going to go there right away instead of giving more examples. When we look at the universe and we look at the intelligibility of the universe, we see
The
structure.
universe is not intelligent.
I didn't say
Too much random stuff going on in the universe.
I didn't say intelligent. I said intelligible. Intelligible means ordered. It has order. It has predictability. It has consistency.
Stuff chaos too.
Of course, it does, but it also has order and predictability. Therefore, we can do
No,
science.
actually, the universe is no order to the universe.
The universe has no order at all.
I mean, come on. As I said, there's random things happening in the universe and bring
There's
forth
order.
certain order. You understand me? But you can't say it's based on order. You understand? Sometimes chaos causes order.
All right, explain.
Isn't it?
Okay, so now you are on. So now you are in a position to defend. How does unguided processes produce truth in your analysis?
As I say, chaos can bring forth certain things together.
All
You
right. So
understand? Based on the force that brings it together and it causes order. It doesn't have to be an intelligent being bring forth things together, because to me, whatever caused the intelligent being to exist is the same force it made of. So it's not going to be a supernatural. It's not going to be a supernatural being. To
all right.
me, there's nothing about the universe is supernatural.
All
Nothing
right.
about the universe of a supernatural being is running it.
All right. Let me.
Nothing about.
All
It's
right.
not
So
logical.
let me take your position to its logical end and see if you agree with it. Right. So there is no supernatural entity running the universe. It,
Nothing.
the universe is random and it's unguided. Would that include your brain's chemical reactions?
You can see that yourself too, my youth.
No, I'm asking.
You can observe that yourself.
No, man.
You understand me?
All you have to do is say yes or no. Does that include your brain's chemical reactions? Yeah.
Yes, yeah, of course it's my brain communicating. Of
In
course it's a
your
brain.
honest
Oh,
analysis, can
yeah, my brain is an analysis, yeah.
can chemical reactions produce truth?
Can chemical reaction bring truth?
No. Can chemical reactions produce truth?
Yeah.
All right. So we go into a lab and a scientist is doing a chemical experimentation. How does chemical reactions produce truth? Explain.
How does chemical reaction bring truth? Because you can know the chemical reaction can cause life itself. You understand? It as abiogenesis life comes from non-life, and the chemistry of it bring forth certain things together. You
What you're giving
understand?
me right now is a description of how life came about. I'm asking you about a chemical reaction producing truth. Can chemical reactions produce truth? If I take a Pepsi and a Dr. Pepper and I shake them up and they fizz and there's a chemical reaction, how does that produce truth? Any form of chemical reaction.
Because of what I call truth, it creates some kind of reaction.
And
You understand me? And it causes some kind of reaction,
how does a
and
reaction?
that's where the truth comes in.
How? Okay, so when your
I'm
brain,
not talking literal truth.
that's what I'm talking about, though.
The
Literal.
concept of truth. The concept of truth. It have many definitions. You understand?
Okay, so let me give you the definition. The definition of truth is a proposition that is in accordance with reality. So let me use a definition. Let me use a sentence. The sky is blue is a statement, and it is a true statement. How does chemical reaction in someone's brain produce a truth statement?
I can't. We do it every day.
Okay, so is your chemical reaction, if I say the sky is red and you say the sky is blue, both of us had a chemical reaction in our brain. Which one of our chemical reactions are true?
As I said, based on the majority of the people.
So would you say that majority determines truth?
Yeah, the majority bring forth truth. Yeah.
All right, so the majority of the world says that God exists. Does he now exist?
No, that's just a claim.
So you just contradicted yourself, man. You see that?
Okay, me and you. Okay, we're talking about existence. You see existence. You see a belief and an existence. We're talking about a color. A color. Me and you just went from something exists, then to come to something not exists. So when you're saying a color, we know color is reality. You understand? Then you're gonna telling me about a belief now. You understand me? That's accepting something without no evidence. Me, you know, color is evidence. Even though you might see it blue and I might see it red, that means both those colors exist. You understand? It's just your brain have a chemical imbalance causing that. But we're talking about existence here. We're talking about reality. We're talking about a color exists in reality. We have red and blue exist in reality. But when you're talking about a belief now in your brain as a claim, that's not reality.
But when you said earlier that the majority determines what's true or false.
No, I stand corrected. I shouldn't have used it that term.
No problem, man. No problem.
Stand corrected.
What I was doing was I was using the Socratic method to bring your worldview to its logical conclusion.
Yeah, that method is a bad analogy.
Come on, man. You did the same thing to me. You're asking
Bad
me
analogy.
to point out holes in my argument.
Yeah, he's a bad analogy. You understand me? You can't use that analogy.
You're doing that to me too, Patrick. Come on. You know
Yeah.
All right. Let me ask you a question, okay? Would you agree with this statement that the people who the people who made the scientific method famous and well known, would you agree with me that those people were Christians?
A man's profession have nothing to do with his belief.
So wait, hold on. Let me.
Not because I'm a scientist and I believe in something, I can change that me being a scientist. You're still you're still gonna have a belief.
All right, I'm gonna make a statement, okay, and see if you agree with it. A man named Galileo Galilei and Francis Bacon, two Christians, one a Christian philosopher. They wrote books. One of them, very famous, called the Novum Organum, written 1620. It demonstrated or rather revealed, the scientific method that everybody uses today. And Francis Bacon wrote that method based on the fact that the universe was created and governed by God, and therefore we can expect the future to resemble the past, and therefore we can be. You as an individual, you have removed God from the equation. So what I would have to ask you is, what allows or what maintains any form of order in the universe? Any form.
What maintain any type of order in the universe?
Any type of order.
Okay. For me to that question you just put there. I'm not gonna guess it. I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna go on said one. As I said, to me, energy, space, time, and matter. You understand? As we know, space, time, and matter. That's about the universe, and that's gonna bring some kind a balance. Space, time, and matter bring forth some kind of order in the universe.
All right,
You
so
understand?
so look it up, do some more reading, and
Yeah, I can do some. So okay, if you know the answer, tell me what brings forth order in the universe.
I'm gonna give you the answer that you're not gonna like, man. I said it's God, man. It's God.
Yeah,
That's it.
you
You're
need to
not gonna
stop
like
playing.
my
Stop
answer,
playing,
bro.
man. Stop playing, man.
You're
Stop
not gonna
playing.
like my answer, bro.
Stop playing.
I said it's God, man. I said it's God.
No, come on, no,
And
boss.
didn't
Come
I
on.
concede? Didn't I tell you I can't prove to you God exists empirically? I can't do it. I conceded.
Yeah, but why would you say he's God? You understand me? You wasn't there. You never seen a God. You don't have no evidence of a God. And then you're going to use based on something you learn of a God. Because we're going to say, what is God? And you don't know what is God.
I do have transcendental evidence for God. Transcendental means what must be true in order for something to be the case. An example would be,
Yeah, I forgot you said that.
I'm gonna use a natural example because you're a natural. If you're breathing, there must be lungs in your chest.
Yeah,
If
come on now.
if you're
I know you didn't fail biology class, so you know why you're breathing. So you need to cut it up, boss. Don't do those,
I'm
you
using
know.
my limited knowledge in science to make
No,
it.
but I know you go through biology class, so you know why you're breathing and you know what the air made of and all that. So you don't need to say it's a God make you breathing.
No,
You understand me?
I'm not saying that. I'm simply pointing out the natural phenomena. If you are thinking, you must have a brain, right? There must be a brain for you to be thinking,
Thank you.
right?
Yeah, thank you. You must have a brain, you
So
know?
I'm pointing out a precondition for something to be the case. So in order for Patrick to be thinking to be the case, there must first be a brain, right? So
Of course, of course, of course.
that's what is called transcendental reasoning. For something
Mm-hmm.
to be the way it is, there must
Yeah.
be X, right? So
Mm-hmm.
my analysis, I'm using transcendental evidence. For the universe to be the way it is, there must be an
That's a
order.
bad analogy. That's a bad analogy, though. You understand? Because the university don't need a brain. The universe don't need a brain. The
So everything's
universe,
random.
no, as I said, the universe. If you want to use the word, I use the word random. Of course, there's a lot of, as I said, you see, it's not. There's a certain force, and I mean that's. I'm using the word. No, shouldn't use the word force. You know what I'm saying force. I'm using the word force based on gravity. You understand? Based on the universe, and that force within the universe bring forth certain things together, and it's going to cause that chain reaction. It doesn't need a God to do that.
All right,
Doesn't need a brain to do that.
we're getting somewhere. So is this force personal?
Eh?
So the force you're talking about, right, that brings about these things we see, is it personal?
It's not a personal. It's something. It's something that natural.
Not personal. All right.
No, it's natural. It's natural.
Is it logical?
Of course, because
Okay.
gravity is a force, huh?
Yeah. Is it logical? As in
Yeah, of course it's logical.
so the force possesses the faculty of logical reasoning as we're reasoning right now.
Yes, yeah, of course. A force provide the faculty reasoning.
No, not does it provide, does it have the quality of rational reasoning and logical reasoning?
Yes, because based on the laws of the universe, you understand?
So
There's force.
so if it possesses the quality of rational reasoning, could you speak to the force and it speaks back to you?
Boss, as I say, it's natural. It's natural. Stop trying to twist. No. Don't do that. The force is natural. You understand me? It's natural.
All right.
Ain't nothing. It's the force is not alive. The force doesn't have a brain.
All right. Not
It's
alive.
just natural.
Not alive.
No, it's not alive.
No brain. All right. So here's the impossible task. The force is not personal. How did the force that is characteristically non-personal produce personal entities in the universe? How?
Because the force draw one, like electron, proton, it draw one thing together and it create an entity. You understand? The force draw certain things together. It's draw carbon, electron, proton, all those things together, and it creates an entity. It creates some kind of energy. It creates some kind of chemical reaction. It's going to draw certain stuff together. You understand? Pull certain stuff together, and certain stuff will attract each other and pull it together. So that's what the universe, that's what force does. It pulls stuff together.
Are electrons, carbons, protons, and chemicals personal?
Yeah, they're personal.
So you would say that an electron is personal.
Electron, of course.
So an electron can communicate with you and in words.
No, you asked me if it's personal. Oh,
Yeah,
so
personal.
no. Okay, when you're asking personal, that means say if it's by itself. Though personal doesn't mean it's alive. It's
Because
not
what
alive, man.
you said that the force that brought everything together is not personal. So what the force did was it brought electrons, carbons, protons, and chemicals together and produced a person.
Yes.
So then I'm asking, are electrons, carbons, protons, chemicals personal? They're not personal. So how did they produce a person?
It's gonna create an entity, and then afterward it's gonna build up and it's gonna create and it's gonna have an essence to it, and then it's gonna have a matter, you know.
So
It's gonna develop from essence, and it's no, it's gonna do it from entity, and it's gonna create, and it's gonna develop entity, essence, and it's gonna develop matter. You understand?
all right. So so tell me if I have this right. Your position is that the force, which is not personal, pulled together electrons, carbons, protons, chemicals that are not personal that then later produced a personal entity.
Yes.
Bro, I think I mean, okay, thank you for letting me know what your position is. And that position is that from the foundation came something that is not in correspondence to the foundation. So we have a non-personal force producing personal entities. And that's one of the reasons why I said that the position is false, because it rejects and denies that which we see every single day, where the foundation corresponds with what comes out of it. Well, you gave me an example of a foundation that does not correspond with what comes out of it. So if that's your position, I mean, I respect that you told me what it is and you know what mine is. I conceded to you that I can't prove to you that God exists empirically because it's not a physical entity. But I believe he exists because I accept other forms of evidence.
So you believe in abracadabra. I believe in a natural phenomenon. I don't believe in abracadabra.
And that's fine, man. That's fine. If
Abracadabra create these things. And then afterward, when abracadabra created, it end up have these elements that we study.
I would
You
say,
understand? And then say abracadabra bring forth these elements together. Come on,
I would
boss.
say that's a straw man. I wouldn't say abracadabra. I would say the tribes
Yes,
are
abracadabra you believe in,
straw.
my youth. See, abracadabra. Then after a while, they bring it together. Then it have all these elements and all these chemicals in it that we can study.
Let's not do
You
that.
know?
Let's misrepresent each other, man. I didn't say abracadabra. The same way, I will not say that you believe that the tooth fairy created everything. No, I wouldn't say that. Let's not
No,
be.
but I'm saying, don't you believe that there's a God? So, because God deal with abracadabra, you know. You understand?
Well, I would disagree. I would say that's a straw man. The same way if I said to you that you believe
So
that
where God get the material from? It's not from out of his intelligent brain. The material already exists. Where
I
God
wouldn't
get the material from to create things?
I wouldn't say
Where
I
God
wouldn't
get the
say
material
God
to
has a
create the
brain.
universe?
I
Where
wouldn't
God
say
get
God has a
the
brain. I would say
material
God
to
has
create the
a mind.
universe?
I wouldn't say
It-
God has a
it-
brain. The
where
Bible,
God get the material to create the universe?
he created it out of nothing. He spoke it out of nothing.
Yeah, out of nothing.
Out of nothing.
And then after, and it becomes some. So he just came out of nothing. So it's just an abracadabra.
Something that wasn't. So magic. Magic is what you're referring to.
Yes.
Okay. So if that's how you want to characterize my position, fine, man. I
That's
mean,
not, come on now. Don't that's what supernatural do?
I'm not disagreeing with you. God brought something out of nothing.
And you want to say the universe came from abracadabra. You believe that?
The universe came from
Abracadabra.
God's creative power out of nothing.
The universe came out of magic. That's what you think.
If that's what you want to call supernatural, then yeah.
But that's what supernatural is, my youth.
Okay, I agree with you. It came out of magic, came out of supernatural. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, a universe. So what create God?
Nothing. He's the first cause.
Are you for real?
Yep. Nothing created him. He's the first cause.
That's what you. It doesn't crash. It doesn't crash. You know, crash right there.
No. Yeah, I have no problem with that because I said I'm not. Uh, Patrick, I am not an extreme empiricist. I don't think that for something to be real, it has to be empirically verified because, as I said, the assumptions of science are not empirically verified. So, but those things are real.
So God, so you want to say God don't made of nothing? It just always exists.
God,
God don't make of nothing.
he's a spiritual entity, so he's not made of physical matter. So no,
It's a spiritual thing that's made of nothing.
a spiritual thing isn't made of
So
matter.
how come nothing going to create something?
Spiritual thing isn't made of matter, is what I said. Can you prove to me empirically?
Spiritual thing, if it's matter, that means it's not spiritual.
Can you prove to me empirically that the scientific method of induction is real?
A scientific method of induction is real.
Yeah, prove to me empirically that it's real.
As I said, we can't prove something that is nothing is real. It have to be matter.
So are you saying that the scientific principle of induction is false? It's not real?
What are the scientific principles in induction? Yes.
The scientific principle of induction is the assumption that the future will resemble the past. It can't be proved empirically, therefore it's false in your analysis.
No, that's an assumption.
Okay, prove it to me.
That's what I said. Scientists can't prove an assumption.
So prove the principle of induction empirically. Let me see. Go ahead.
I can't prove an assumption.
There you go. So that means, according to your analysis, science is false, right? You see what? Do you see what extreme?
If it's based on assumption, then it's false.
Okay, good. So that means you reject science.
No, science is not based on. As I said, we know. I understand what you're saying. That I know what you I understand what you're saying. See, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, so
Motions.
science is false based on your analysis, then, right? Because you can't prove the assumption by science, right? You see what's happening here, Patrick? You're destroying your worldview, man. Can you see it?
Yes, I understand the foundation of science built on several fundamental things. You understand me?
Fundamental assumptions that cannot be proved empirically. Therefore, you have to reject them if you're consistent. But you're not, so your worldview is false. You see them?
Listen, are your phone is false right now, are you?
My phone? No, because
Yeah.
it's an empirical entity. It's an empirical thing.
Did your phone build an assumption?
My phone was built from an assumption, yes, that cannot be proved by science. That's something you can't deny. Every true scientist agrees that the principle of induction cannot be proved by science. So if you say that something is real, if it's proven by science, you have to reject science because it's not proven by.
No. I don't. As I said, one more time again, it's not all science based on a fundamental an assumption.
Okay,
You understand?
show me
It's
one. Okay, Patrick, show me one scientific conclusion that was
you
not.
know what you're right, guys. You're right. I'm not gonna try to win points here. You understand? I'm not trying to win no points. You understand? So yes, it starts from an assumption, but
Perfect. So that
it
means if
starts
you,
from an assumption.
I'm not going to talk over you. Finish your sentence. Go ahead.
It do start from an assumption. We're not gonna say no.
Mm-hmm.
You understand?
Tell me when you're
And
done.
then become reality. So of course, so you win your points right there. I'm not trying to. I'm stand corrected. I'm not going to say yes. I agree. It does start from an assumption. You see me?
All right. So that's, and all I'm pointing out, Patrick, is that if I take your criterion of belief and apply it to science, because the assumptions of science cannot be proved empirically and scientifically, you would have to reject them if you're consistent. That's all I'm saying.
No, I don't have to reject them. Okay, it start. But what I said, not because that you see your worldview. You want based on because science starts from an assumption. That means that your worldview is correct. Yes, your worldview starts from an assumption, and it's gonna crash within itself. You understand? Enough way, but science starts from assumption, but it came out with facts. Enough of it come out with facts.
No, I think you're missing my point. My point is, you're saying, Adrian, you have no scientific empirical evidence for your claim. And I'm saying, you also don't have any scientific and empirical evidence for your claim, which is the assumptions of. Therefore, if I'm wrong, you're wrong too. That's all I'm saying. You get it?
Yeah, as I said, no. Basically, you see, what you're doing, you understand? Understand the fundamental of science based on several functional, unapprovable philosophical assumption. Saying yes, but that doesn't mean said yeah, they do have plenty of facts comes with it too. After that though, you understand?
There is no scientific evidence or empirical proof of fact that the assumptions are true. None
Yeah,
of.
but I'm saying it does start, but it's still allow for empirical observation.
So
Well,
do you now uh change the statement from something is only true if it is scientifically verified? You change that statement.
yeah, it's still it do come still to allow for empirical observation though, empirical observation,
So
and we have no empirical observation for God.
that means just because we have no empirical observation for God doesn't mean that God isn't real, right? Since you just conceded.
Yeah, we don't have no empirical observation for God. You understand?
And we don't have
So
any for the assumptions of science either. So if you say that science is still valid,
yeah, we have a lot of thing empirical observation for science, but we don't have no empirical observation for God. We'll have a lot of empirical observation for science. That you like you're on one right now. We're on run. You're on one right now. We're talking on one right now,
actually
but we don't have no empirical observation for God.
we have
See me?
empirical observation for the conclusions of science, but we don't have empirical observation or demonstration for the assumptions of science. No, we don't. No, we don't.
No, of course, boss. I said we have empirical. We don't have. Yes, we have a lot of assumption, and which came to conclusion. Well, of course, we have a lot of assumption do
Okay.
came in reality. We do have a lot of assumption that came in reality.
Again, what is the proof? What is the scientific proof that the future will resemble the past? Go ahead. What is it?
What's the proof? It's not going to be accurate. You understand me?
You see, I'm talking about you cannot prove. And the reason why I'm pointing this out is that no scientist has ever in the history of time proved the induction principle that science is based on scientifically, because they can't. That is why your position that if something cannot be proved empirically, therefore it's false, is a self-defeating, self-refuting position. It's a contradiction, Patrick. And I know you can see it because you're a smart dude. I know you can see it. I know you can see it. You're just pretending not to. You can see it.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, right about now, that's your argument. That's you go off your argument. Go off of that though. I can't understand why your argument will go off of that though. For prove your God. Come on, we don't have no empirical observation for God, and that's the full thing right there. We don't have no empirical observation for God.
I'll let you finish. Okay.
You understand me? And the assumption part, I agree with you. You understand? But we don't have no empirical observation for God.
And that's the reason for your rejection of God. So if that's the reason for your rejection of God, if that's the reason for your rejection of God, then if you are consistent, you would also reject the assumptions of science, which you don't. And what the other 13 people in the chat are seeing is that Patrick is being inconsistent because his worldview is bankrupt.
You see,
Hey, Patrick, am I being respectful to you? By the way, am I being respectful?
Yeah, you're being respectful, man.
All right, that's all I'm trying to show you. Trying to show you. But do some more reading, bro. Do some more reading. Do some more reading, right? Look up the philosophical assumptions of science and see if you can solve the problem that no scientist ever solved in the history of science. Let's see if it can happen, because you're probably a scientist. You're probably a smart dude in that way. But
as I said, I agree with you.
Patrick, you know what the word dunce means? You know what the word dunce means?
Yeah.
Yeah, I am a science dunce here, so you can't talk to me about that stuff. So do some more reading on philosophy and theology, because there is a principle called the philosophy of science. People literally get PhDs in the philosophy of science because science is based in philosophy, right? You can look this up. Don't agree with me. Look it up.
Yeah, of course, science. I don't disagree with science is don't be based on philosophy.
It's the reason why I said that, Patrick, is because when we just started this conversation, you said you're not doing no philosophical reasoning. You don't deal with that stuff.
No, because I do not do philosophical reasoning, and that's why I don't want to go down there.
And I was saying that you can't talk about science without talking about philosophy, man. It's based in philosophy.
It's the people who go to school and study philosophy, you understand me, who know and try to reason that way, and they still come down to enough. Yes, I understand, but I don't reason that way. I do not reason that way.
I mean, and that's fine, but
we're not going to play scoring points and know who which dick longer than which one and where. No, not time for that.
We're not doing that, Patrick. Even though you said you wasn't going to engage in philosophical reasoning, this entire conversation was a philosophical reasoning conversation, and it was cool. It was cool. It was cool. It was cool and respectful.
Yeah.
I want you to know that any atheist that comes on my page, I match energy. So if you're respectful, I'm going to be respectful. If you're rough and aggressive, I'm going to be rough and aggressive. You can tell any atheist out there, they can come on my page and we will have a respectful conversation. But this was lovely.
Well, you come for the atheist them big time now, Virgin. You went back in your drawing board and come back for atheists, eh?
No, that wasn't
back in the days when you used to dip on Bolo and all them time, a different argument, eh? But no, you come back for the atheists.
That's not it, Patrick. I actually took a break because I had a new baby.
I can bet you follow Tupac, you know. When name again? My youth, the black youth there. I think you follow him, you know. Because you talk somewhat like him.
Probably. But Patrick, the reason why I took a break is because my wife gave me a new baby.
Oh, congratulations, man.
So that's
congratulations, man.
Thank you so much, man. I had to take a break because my baby is a handful, and I had to,
yes,
because I have a life outside of TikTok, and you do as well. So you have to.
Yes. So you baby walking now, huh?
Actually, no. She creeping fast though. She creeping fast.
Oh, she done reached 12 months yet?
She's gonna be 12 months next month, so she's gonna be 1 next month. So it's been a
Oh yeah,
while.
she gonna get up. She gonna get up and walk to you.
Yeah, yeah, that's what it was. So
Yeah,
I took a
she
break
gonna get up
from
and
I took
walk
a
to
break
you.
from TikTok for like
Next
almost
month
a
she gonna
year.
get up and start walk to you, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. I took a break from TikTok for almost a year because I had a new baby. That's what happened, man. That's what happened. But I'm not trying to bash atheists or even treat you guys disrespectfully. All I'm doing is pointing something out and can continue, right?
Just sit down, sit down. I make you come to you. I shall get up and stand right and walk right to you.
I'll do that.
Is a girl? Is a girl?
Yeah, it's a girl.
Okay, okay. All right, man. Congratulations. Have a good one, man.
Same to you, Patrick, and thanks for your time.
All
Anytime.
right.
All right, guys. So no shade against Patrick, no disrespect against Patrick. All I was doing was pointing out that if you have an extreme position on empiricism, you are going to be an advocate of what is called scientism. It is a theory of knowledge, and you can be an extreme scientism advocate or a hard scientism advocate or a soft scientism advocate. A hard scientism advocate is someone who says scientific knowledge is the only reliable source of knowledge and all other models of knowledge are meaningless. That's the hard scientism position. The soft scientism position says that scientific knowledge is the most reliable and others are less reliable. It was pointed out a few times that Patrick holds the extreme view, and there is something in philosophy called a performative contradiction where your position refutes itself, your position contradicts itself. So he said, unless something is physically, empirically verified, it does not exist. Well, if you apply that same criteria to the assumptions of science, then that means the scientific method is not true, does not exist, is not real. But he wasn't going to do that. He just showed his inconsistency, because if he was consistent, then he would have to reject science as well. So I'm glad that we could have a respectful conversation. Let me bring this guy up. The name sounds like you are well read in philosophy, bro.
Not well read, just moderately read.
Right? Right? Are you an atheist?
No, I'm a theist.
Oh, okay. You're Christian?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just so that I understand the prompt, you're saying that an atheistic worldview can't account for things existing.
Right, right, right.
Okay. So, and when we speak of grounding, we're speaking. Are we going to speak of valid or sound grounding?
I mean, valid, because I mean we're making reference to ontology, the nature of being. There is
Okay. Okay. So for valid grounding, so what about like a Platonist view? That's a atheistic worldview, and it does account for ontology.
because it makes reference to the forms. Are you talking about the forms?
Yeah, that would be where everything else. That would be the thing that things participate in. Yeah.
And the forms are transcendental and beyond the physical realm.
Yeah.
So the forms would be abstract categories that are expressed in physical particulars in time, like justice, love, joy, peace, etc.
Yeah, those instantiations would participate within the pure form of the thing.
So that's what I remember from reading Platonic philosophy, and what was missing was a divine, a single ontological being that uniquely and simultaneously grounds all of the so-called abstractions that are expressed in time in particulars. So Platonism, they don't have a unified, identifiable, and defensible natured entity. All they have is, well, we see these particulars, therefore there has to be universal abstractions. But they didn't go far enough to say that it was the Christian God. That is why Christian philosophers like Tertullian and, oh my God, I can't remember the other guy's name. Damn, they took Plato's philosophy and repackaged it to teach Christian theology, Christian truth, and said that what unifies all these abstractions, what unifies all these universals, is the triune God of Scripture. But if an atheist is a Platonic individual, I would say that you can't ground the universals in the universe, because all Platonists can do is account for universals, but you can't account for particulars, because the reason why is you cannot distinguish between the universal and the particular in your worldview. There is no revelation that distinguishes the two. So it's a flawed perspective in my worldview.
Yeah, well, the accounting for the particulars would just be that they're sort of lesser participations of the universal, and the accounting for the universal in terms of the differentiation, I think that would just be that we don't interact with we wouldn't interact with the pure forms in the real physical world. So the distinction would just be, if you're in the physical world, then you're not actually participating with the pure forms. So that would be how we delineate between pure forms and things simply participating in them or with them.
Are you familiar with modus tollens and modus ponens?
Yeah.
Could you put that in a formulation? How you think a atheist who's a Platonist would put that in? Would say that?
Specifically what I just said, or just the whole worldview?
Would you say that P1 is if intelligibility obtains, then what would be true for intelligibility to obtain?
Well, yeah. I'm not sure how I would actually account for Platonism in that specific way, because what I know is simply that the way I just know the way it accounts for things. Now, I'm not sure exactly how this would be put into those inference rules, to be honest.
But that's what I mean. I mean, it's impossible for the atheist to give an ontological grounding for the existence of anything at all. There was a guy up here earlier who was saying that the force, and whatever the force is what causes everything. And then I pointed out that it violates a principle where the foundation does not correspond to what flows from it, when that's what we see every single day. Foundations correspond to what flow from them. And the foundation, the triune God, corresponds to what flows from it. We have logic, rationality, language, communication, knowledge. We have morality, truth. We have the principle of causality. We have human value, dignity, and worth, and purpose. We have these things in the universe. Okay, what's the foundation that corresponds to this? The only one that comprehensively, exhaustively, and simultaneously corresponds is the triune God of Scripture. No other natured entity does that. None whatsoever.
Yeah, I do agree that the way the triune God accounts for things is the most parsimonious view. I do agree with that. But I was simply saying that as a Platonist, you do also have an account. Like, Platonists do face other issues within the worldview, but when it comes to accounting for things, the accounting which they give is valid for how things exist. Like, there's no contradiction in the view to say that universals exist and particulars participate within them, and there are sort of lower forms of these universals.
That actually sounds like a brute fact statement where
Yeah, the universal part. Yeah,
yeah.
I have no idea how Plato got to that. So
Yeah. So I was saying that if that's the argument, that's a brute facts argument. They just exist. They just are. Right? So the universals exist and they are shown in particulars. Or sorry, no. The forms exist and they're shown in particulars. It doesn't go far back enough to say what actualizes the forms, what actualizes, sustains, and dictates what is and cannot be. The forms. What is that thing? There's nothing presented. It's just the forms exist and they are shown in particulars. So it would be brute facts argument. And brute facts, the brute facts argument, it violates the fourth law of logic, which was identified by Leibniz and Schopenhauer, the principle of sufficient reason, that everything that exists has a sufficient reason and cause for its existence.
Yeah, when it comes to the account for the forms themselves, the view would just fall into dogmatism, would just basically say that these are the fundamental aspects of reality. It doesn't get any more fundamental than this. It's irreducible. So it doesn't derive a justification from something prior. It's simply the foundation of everything that exists.
All right. Since it's dogmatism, have you done any reading on Agrippa's trilemma?
Yeah, well, a bit. I know what it is.
All right, so the trilemma simply states this: there are three horns that ultimate justification. When it comes down to ultimate justification, the claim, when you try to justify it, you will either the claim will die on dogmatism, infinite regress, or circularity.
Yeah, I'm aware.
But I'm actually writing a book called it's called Acknowledging the Obvious, which actually gives a alternative or a fourth option to the trilemma. So we have dogmatism, infinite regress, and circularity, or contextualism. And contextualism simply states that we don't agree with the presupposition of the trilemma itself, which is this: we all start from a neutral standpoint when we try to justify our claims. But actually, contextualism states that we start from a context. We start from a context, and in our worldview, a created context with logic, rationality, reason, truth, etc. And we already have these tools, we already have these things, and we then justify our worldview by simply contextualizing our claims within the Christian worldview, i.e., the Bible, God's revelation. So I can know that something is true because I start from somewhere, God's foundation. Nobody else can know if anything is true if they start from a neutral standpoint, because when they try to justify their claim, they're either going to say it just is, dogmatism. It is because of B, why? It's B because of C, why? It's C because of D, why? It's D because of E, infinite regress. Or my claim justifies my claim, circularity. So I would say that my perspective as an upcoming advocate and author in philosophy, the Platonist view is unalived on the dogmatist horn because there is no justification.
Yeah, to respond to that, I don't think Agrippa's trilemma is like pointing out a like problem within worldviews. It's just stating that worldviews tend to end on this because like the Christian reconciliation for this, either what based on what I've seen, it would just be two things. Either they accept dogmatism, say, yeah, God is the ultimate foundation, because ultimately there's nothing wrong with dogmatism, that type of dogmatism as a justification. Or as Plantinga, I think Plantinga was the one that pointed this out, or coined basic or properly basic beliefs that says that justification doesn't have to be inferential. So you don't have to derive justification from something, from something prior. You could just have basic beliefs, which are beliefs that you come to based on your faculties working the way they should. So based on what I've seen, either dogmatism, for the Christian view, either dogmatism or properly basic beliefs. But I don't see any issues with accepting dogmatism. It's just saying this is the foundation of my worldview and everything builds from this.
Well, the reason why I would say that the Christian perspective doesn't fall into dogmatism is because dogmatism is a claim without an explanation. It just is. But the Christian position actually has an explanation. and it is this. So we have a chain, not a circle. The chain is God is the ontological grounding for all of existence, including Scripture, His revelation, and His revelation explains Him and everything else. So we have something that explains who God is, and we have something that explains reality, and therefore it wouldn't be dogmatic. It would just be acknowledging the obvious.
Yeah.
I would disagree.
When it comes to the trilemma, I'm pretty sure dogmatism and foundationalism would just be the same thing. It would just be saying that this worldview has X starting point in which all beliefs are built from, kind of like an axiom. So this thing is true, and we build our, this thing is irreducible. This is our starting point, and we build our worldview from this, starting from here because of this irreducible thing.
And I would say that those two options doesn't acknowledge the third option, which is contextualism, where we start from the created context of God's world and we reason from a standpoint of intelligibility, because we can't reason without intelligibility. Intelligibility is the reason why we are able to reason, by the way. So I wouldn't identify Christianity as dogmatism nor foundationalism, because there is an explanation, there is an ultimate explanation for God, who anyone would identify as the axiom or the brute fact. There is an explanation, and the scripture explains who God is. He reveals himself to his creation, his creatures, through special revelation and natural revelation. So, I mean, it doesn't fall in those categories. Dogmatism doesn't have an explanation, Phil. It doesn't have an explanation, but Christianity does, and therefore it's not dogmatism.
Well, no, within the Christian paradigm, like you don't have a further, like you don't go beyond or prior to God, right? When it comes to formulating justification or grounding, I'll say grounding for why things exist, what exists, how they exist, stuff like that. We do stop at God.
The reason why we stop at God isn't because God is dogmatic. The reason we stop there is because there is a principle called the first cause, that everything has to go back to a first cause. But God is not only the first cause; He is the immediate cause, first cause and immediate cause, because He continually actualizes and sustains the universe. So not only is He the first cause to create the universe, but He is the immediate cause who continually upholds and governs the universe. And how do we know that? Because the scripture explains him. It doesn't stop where we just say, God just is. We say the scripture explains him, and he's the grounding because the scripture says he is. So we have a stopping point, something that is self-authenticating. And since you study philosophy, you would know that when it comes on to ultimate foundations, transcendental foundations, they have to be self-authenticating.
Yeah, meaning there's no justification outside of them for their existence. So I still don't, like, I'm not positing that God is a brute fact and we just say God is, and that's it. No, we work on. It's just saying that that's irreducible. Like when we look for a grounding for logic, knowledge, truth, all of these things, that all falls on God. If we look for a justification for God or a grounding for God, there's no grounding for God's existence because God would be the ultimate foundation. You don't go beyond God. Like when you think of logic, we do go beyond logic. We do go beyond truth. We do go beyond knowledge to say God is the foundation. But if we're looking for something prior to God as a foundation, that doesn't exist because God would be the ultimate foundation or first cause, that everything that does exist would like sort of emerge from or be grounded by Him.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that.
Yeah, that's all I was saying.
I agree with you. I agree. I actually understand what you're saying. Yeah, I agree with you, and I would say that's the reason why atheism is false. Because as a worldview, it doesn't provide any grounding. It just says there's nothing, or I don't know what the thing is. It doesn't have anything.
Yeah, yeah. Most, I'll say most views. Like ultimately, all atheistic worldviews collapses in some aspect.
Yeah, and that's my whole argument as to why it's false. I mean, that the guy who was up here earlier, he demonstrated that. He was saying that nothing exists unless it's empirically verified. I said, okay, the scientific method that is based on assumptions, those assumptions are not empirically verified. So do you now reject those? No, he doesn't. So it shows that something does not have to be empirically verified for it to be true or real. So he had to abandon that or be inconsistent, but he didn't abandon it. So he was inconsistent, and he was okay with that. But it's okay.
Yeah, for my last thing before I drop, I do find it ironic that atheists will always say that Christians are religious people are indoctrinated to believe these things without actually thinking critically about them. But when it comes to philosophy and empiricism specifically, they have actually been indoctrinated into thinking that this has to be the ultimate worldview that is true. Everything is viewed through the lens of empiricism, and nothing else exists. Like if someone says, if someone asks you how do you know stuff is real, and or no, when they're asking you for a justification, it always has to be through the lens of empiricism. Have you observed it? Can we test it? Is it repeatable? And I would say, and if you posit something outside of that, they'll kind of look at you like you're insane or you're saying something that's crazy that doesn't make any sense. So I would say that they're also actually indoctrinated into thinking that empiricism is the only way to verify truths or to know what is real or what exists.
Yeah, it's a faith position, man. It's a faith position, and they hate when I say that, but it's actually shown. The assumptions of science, bro, are beliefs that you have about the world. They're beliefs. You can't prove them scientifically. So you're just as religious as we are, in claiming that we're the bad ones.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me.
No problem,
let
man.
you
You
know.
taught me something. I'm gonna do some more reading. All right. This guy says atheism does not make a claim. Okay, so why are you here? Why are you here? Why do you engage in debates about the existence of God if you don't have a claim? Why? Why waste your time? Why waste your time? Why waste your time and other people's time? Why? Why? Do you love wasting time? Do you love wasting time? I'm talking about positive atheism. It was distinguished in 1972 by Anthony Flew. He invented a new category called negative atheism, which is that atheism is a lack of belief. And he said that it's to be distinguished from positive atheism, which is a propositional belief that there is no God. So lack of belief atheism, I would say that you guys don't have a claim because you don't have a worldview. You don't have anything, nothing at all. So the way I show that you guys are wrong in your reasoning is by showing you that the standard you use for believing or not believing in God, when you use it on yourself, you literally destroy your own perspective and your own worldview, as I did with the guy who was up here earlier. If you're not making a claim, stop wasting your time listening to people at all. Like, you have something better to do, man. See, atheism is just lack of belief in God or gods, nothing more. There you go. There you go. So you reject and deny the other definitions for atheism because you're somehow better than all the dictionaries and philosophical encyclopedias that define atheism. You have not come along with the truth. And there's only one definition for atheism, and that is a lack of belief in God. Wow. Matter of fact, let me bring you up. Oh, can't even bring you up. There's no option there. There's only one definition for atheism, guys. All 7 of you in here. There's only one definition for atheism because he says atheism is a lack of belief in God or gods and nothing more. That is a statement that completely ignores reality. That is a delusional statement. Delusional statement. Literally. I mean, I'm so glad I can't bring him up because I don't engage with delusion, man. I don't. As a matter of fact, let me mute him. Let me mute you because I don't want to hear anything else from you, man. You're a delusional person. You're delusional. You need to literally go and fix your brain Because you're going to say atheism is a lack of belief and nothing more. That's delusion. That's literally not living in reality. So you can just leave, just swipe and go. I'm not going to let you waste my time, and I'm not going to waste your time. So you can leave. Let me bring somebody else up. Let's see if this guy comes up. Or this girl. Damn, I'm going to have to go soon. I have to run an errand. Step to them music. That sounds like a Jamaican. Or Caribbean. Sorry, guys, I have my bias. Every time I see something resembling Jamaica, I always say that must be Jamaican. Oh, boy. Okay. Man of God, spirit. So all the people who requested to come up, I guess, because I took too long to bring them up, they're all gone now. I mean, that's okay. That's okay. So guys, I am not afraid to concede. If someone says, prove to me God exists, and what you mean by proof is prove God empirically, I can't do that because God is not a physical entity. I can't do that. If you come up here and you give me an argument for God's existence, but you give me an argument against God's existence, but you can't define the thing that you are saying does not exist, then you do not possess enough knowledge about God for you to deny his existence. You don't. And I'm not going to waste your time or my time by even engaging. There was somebody who came up who literally did not have an accurate representation of God in his modus ponens. His modus tollens. And I was done. But I wasn't going to deal with that. He said, if God exists, then he is eternal. Premise 2, God is not eternal. Therefore, God does not exist. I asked him, define God, because we were talking past each other about the existence of God. We were talking past each other. We're going back and forth unnecessarily. That is why semantics are important in a debate. They're very important. What do you mean by God? What do you mean by evidence? What do you mean by proof? Whenever you guys are debating atheists, whenever you guys are debating non-believers, make sure you define your terms. Make sure you point out double standards and hypocrisy. Make sure you do these things because, guys, atheism is literally the easiest worldview to refute. It's literally the easiest because they have nothing. They have nothing. It's the easiest worldview to refute because all you have to do is show them that they are violating their criterion of belief when they reject Christianity based on the fact that we don't have any empirical evidence to show them God. If that's your criteria for accepting a claim's truthfulness, then you have to reject science. But you won't. So it shows the inconsistency. And guys, inconsistency is the sign of a failed argument. That's what it is. All right. Boy, my head hurts. All the thinking. All the thinking. All right, guys, I'm going to jump off of here. I'm going to do some more reading. And I'm going to run some errands. Because if you guys haven't realized, I'm an ignoramus. I need to learn a lot more than I do know. So I'm going to jump off of here. I'm going to go do some reading and